Welcome back. So we're going to be briefly talking about what it means to take a tribal nation and try to mirror it after our democratic organized nation. He states that none of these three, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam, had ever been a democracy or came close to developing the social values that underpin Western society. In each case, the United States attempted to impose one anyway. In each one, the U.S. Army primarily attempted to create a standing army in the exact model of the U.S. Army itself, which would be responsible for maintaining the power in the U.S. created system of government. That they would establish an army as the driving force between their particular government. All three of these governments were proclaimed as legitimate based upon the trappings of elections, despite elections never having been a source of legitimacy of governance in any of them before. In each case, the enemies of the United States created governments and their militaries were able to marshal, train, equip, and find sanctuary across the border with a territorial neighbor, such as Cambodia and North Vietnam in the case of South Vietnam, Syria in the case of Iraq, and Pakistan in the case of Afghanistan. Thus, at the strategic level, the military outcome in Afghanistan is not seriously in question, as there is no strategic basis for it to be any different than the outcomes in South Vietnam and Iraq, no matter how much whistling past the strategic graveyard precedes it. The Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police cannot maintain security in the southern part of the country after the departure of American forces. Indeed, they are not entirely even doing so today. This, I forgot to mention, I'm realizing, was published in 2019, I think mostly written in 2017, 2018, which is very interesting considering what is happening today. He states that the ANA and the AMP cannot maintain security in the southern part of the country after the departure of the U.S. forces. Indeed, he states they're not even doing so today. Even while American air power is still available and being applied robustly, at least 5 Afghan districts have no government presence at this writing, I guess. And many ANA garrisons in the south and east are already surrounded like little Alamos. Many of these base-bound garrisons are struggling to simply obtain food and ammunition, and they rarely venture outside their perimeters. An hour's drive from Kabul in Tagab district of Kapisa province, for example, the soldiers of ANA garrison are permitted by the Taliban to leave their base for 1 hour each day to go to the bazaar and buy their food as long as they carry no weapons. So some of this information may hit you hard. It can at times hit me really hard. I mean, it can really bring you to question the whole basis of approach at what we were doing in the story and the ideal and the mission that we bought into. But I just want to make one thing clear. Even if that's happening, I still am very happy and satisfied and thankful for my service and what I experienced. And that's coming from a guy, some of the soldiers that I served with, some of them were killed in action. Some of them have died after service. And I even did morgue duty a handful of times. And it's hard because maybe the path of least resistance or the lowest hanging fruit of thinking processes is to think that the fall of Afghanistan or even some of the ideas that are being expressed in this book may seem like it was for nothing, that it didn't mean anything. And I understand that and I can feel that maybe sometimes, but I don't take that stance. I don't buy into that. Because number one, meaning is derived from you. You get to assign meaning to what matters to you. And truly, most of my friends, all of my friends growing up that I graduated high school with, all of them were enlisted. And so me going as an officer was like a thing, and we always gave me a hard time about it. But I had always heard of the military from an enlisted point of view. And so I was really bewildered when I heard of the rift between officers and enlisted. But all of that aside, I know that I get to assign meaning to that experience. And with the platoon that I served with, I know that I wanted to serve them and do everything that I could for them, no matter what, at the cost of everything. And I think many of you feel the same way. And that generates, crafts, forges deep meaning and deep purpose, regardless of what all these facts and scenarios seem to be screaming. So that's the question. What has this all kind of meant to you? How is this stuff hitting you? Let's hear about it. Let us know in the comments.